everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I was feeling in the mood to talk about some books, so I thought I would discuss my top 5 favorite books this year so far. These are definitely not in any order. So the first book I'm going to talk about is Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. Now, this book was my introduction to Colleen Hoover. It was the first book I read from her, and I immediately fell in love. This book is a brother's best friend romance, as well as a no strings attached romance. So this book centers around our main character, Tate. Now, she has graduated nursing school and is currently a nurse and also is going back to school for her master's degree. She decides to move in with her brother, who is a pilot, and when she gets to the apartment to start moving in her stuff, there ends up being a drunk man leaning on the door, asleep. So she calls up her brother. She's like, hey, I can't get inside. There is a man at your door, sleeping. And the brother says, okay, let me call my best friend, my neighbor, who's also a pilot, and he can help move him. Lo and behold, it ends up being the drunk guy at the door, Miles. So Tate and Miles get off on kind of a rough start, but as she starts talking to him, she realizes that they just got off on the wrong foot. So throughout the book, Tate and Miles have this tension, and it builds and builds, and they get to a point where they can't ignore it anymore. So as this tension builds and kind of comes to a head, Miles and Tate end up coming to this agreement that it can only be physical between them. Tate is too busy in nursing school for a relationship, and Miles says that he can't love. He cannot love her. So Miles comes up with 2 rules. The first is that Tate cannot ask about his past, and the second is that she cannot expect a future with him. But of course, with any no strings attached romance, it becomes more, and you end up figuring out why Miles can't love in the first place, and it's a huge twist. But this book made me cry, for sure. For sure made me cry. I love books that make me cry. I don't know why. That might be a problem. But it's a great book. I definitely recommend it, and it was a great introduction to Colleen Hoover. The next book I'm going to talk about is Night Road by Kristen Hanna. This book, Kristen Hanna is amazing at writing very impactful and emotional books. It's a whole ride. You feel the trauma of the characters, and I love it. This book centers around 3 teens. We have Lexi, Mia, and Zach. Mia and Zach are boy-girl twins, and they are from a more well-to-do family. Their mother's name is Jude, and she's pretty strict. She doesn't like them going out. She's always giving them lectures on no drinking and driving, like any good parent would. Lexi, on the other hand, had a more rough childhood, and she ends up going into foster care and eventually moving in with her aunt, who just happens to live in the same area as Mia and Zach. So on the first day of school, Lexi ends up meeting Mia. So Lexi becomes best friends with Mia, and she slowly starts to also have feelings for Zach. They end up becoming an inseparable trio, and then one night at a party, stuff goes down. It's extremely traumatizing. It affects all of the characters in the book, and the rest of the book is just kind of how the characters heal and how they go through the process of grief. I really love this book. It was extremely moving, and I definitely recommend it. This book also has a little bit of romance in it, but it's nowhere near Colleen Hoover level. It's not spicy, it's just a little bit of romance. Now, the next book I'm going to talk about is also by Kristen Hanna, and it is The Great Alone. Now, this book, I definitely would check any trigger warnings for the book before you read it. It touches on a lot of dark subjects, but it centers around this family of 3. The dad's name is Ernst, the mom's name is Cora, and then the daughter's name is Lenny. So Ernst was a POW in the Vietnam War, and when he comes home, he's a completely different person. He's very angry, very abusive, and very unpredictable. And he can't hold a job, essentially. They move around a bunch, and he ends up inheriting this cabin in Alaska. So Ernst sees this as like this is it. This is going to be their paradise. They're finally going to be okay. They're going to live off the land. They're not going to have to deal with any stupid government. So they take this road trip. They go up to Alaska. They find the cabin. It's in kind of rough shape, so they work on the cabin. They build relationships with the people in the community, and everything seems like it's going really well. So as we get into winter and the days get shorter and it gets darker for longer, Ernst's mental state deteriorates, and he becomes a lot more abusive, and the home environment just becomes a lot more volatile, as well as the outdoor environment. in Alaska in the winter. If you make one mistake, you're dead, essentially. It deals with how the family survives the outside dangers as well as the inside dangers. There is a little bit of romance in this book. It's not really spicy romance, it's more of a sweet romance. But the twists in this book are absolutely insane. And this whole book had me crying, essentially. I 100% recommend this book, but I would definitely check the trigger warnings and be ready to be sad. It does get wrapped up in the end in a little cute little happy little bow, so that's great. But yeah, I love this book. I completely recommend it, and on to the next one. So the next book I'm going to talk about is a little bit more lighthearted, and it is Under the Whispering Door by T.J. Clune. I love this book. I love T.J. Clune. This book is a queer romance, and I would also say it's a slow burn. It's not spicy at all. The romance is there, but it's mostly in the form of tension. I love this book. So this book centers around our main character, Wallace, who is a lawyer, and at the very beginning of the book, he ends up dying of a heart attack. So after that, he shows up at his own funeral, and no one can see him, but he can see everyone else. He realizes that there's only a couple people there, and none of them really even liked him in life. He does see one person there that seems to be able to see him, and that ends up being his Reaper, May. So May ends up coming up to Wallace and convinces him that they need to go to the next place on his journey to the afterlife. So they go and they get to this tea shop in the woods. I love the scenery in this book. Oh my goodness, the imagery, it's beautiful. I want to live in this tea shop. Either way, they get to the tea shop and they end up meeting Hugo, who is the ferryman. And his job is essentially to get these people to their afterlife. And their afterlife is through this door on the top floor of the tea shop. So Wallace meets Hugo, and it is adorable. Slowly but surely, as Wallace is staying in this tea shop, Wallace and Hugo start developing feelings for each other. And this book, I just love this book. It's so adorable, but it deals with such great topics. And honestly, this book made me feel a lot better about death, and it helped my anxiety about death. So this book just holds a really nice place in my heart, and it definitely reminds me of The House in the Cerulean Sea. I love T.J. Clune's writing style. This is definitely one of my favorite books of all time, for sure. Okay, so the last book I'm going to talk about is my current favorite, probably because I read it so recently. It is Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. This book is definitely more of a romance, for sure, very spicy. It is an age gap romance, and it's like a taboo romance. So this book centers around our main character. Her name is Jordan, and she is 19. She lives with her boyfriend in an apartment, but her boyfriend really hasn't been pulling his weight recently, and she's having to do all of the housework and also work all the time. And on her birthday one night, she's at work, and she gets let out early. She tries to contact her boyfriend. He doesn't respond, so she has no ride home. So she decides to go wait it out at the theater. She's going to go see a midnight showing of a movie. So when she gets there, she ends up meeting this older man. His name's Pike, and I think he's 38. But they kind of have this instant connection, and nothing suggestive happens. They kind of bond with each other throughout the movie. But when they get out of the movie, Jordan gets a call from her boyfriend, and we essentially find out that Pike is her boyfriend's dad. So shortly after that, Jordan and her boyfriend get evicted from their apartment. So Pike offers to let them stay at his house. He's got the space, and they accept. So they move in with Pike, and Jordan's boyfriend is still not treating her very well. He is not appreciating her at all. He's gone all the time. He's having her do all the chores around the house that they agreed to do together. And at the same time, Jordan and Pike start building this tension. And nothing inappropriate happens. There's no cheating in this book. But this slow burn tension is what I live for. Also, Pike is incredibly attractive. I love this book. It's definitely gotten me interested in more taboo age gap romances, so I can't wait to read some more of those. But yeah, those are my top 5 books this year so far. I really enjoyed being able to talk about them. I don't have a lot of people in my life that also enjoy books, so it's nice to be able to just discuss these books and kind of talk about the key things I liked about them. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I really appreciate you guys being here. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe. and comment any book recommendations you have or any books you'd like me to read. I think that's all for now. See you guys!